a better Nigeria? Is it a myth, or do we keep hoping?
Nigeria is a highly religious country. How come corruption thrives?
Why is adoption not encouraged in Nigeria?
Is there a future for the Nigerian youth?
Being rich and famous, is that the only drive to be an artist?
What makes a great nation? Is it the leaders? What about the people?
This is Answers with Dr. Reju.
Hi, my name is Obi, and this is Answers with Dr. Reju. On this program, we like to clarify critical life issues that you may ask yourself. Today, we have Matthew Okwe on the program. Matthew, nice to have you.
Thank you, Obi.
And we have the one and only Dr. Reju.
Thanks, Obi.
And of course, we have Obi. Now, Matthew, where do we start from today?
Well, last week we really looked at the issue of how to prepare for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Reju told us that you can't really get prepared,
But I said that doesn't mean you don't prepare.
Exactly. Because he mentioned some very key, pointers. And one of those pointers that raised a lot of questions, with a couple of people I met out there, especially one of my friends, Samuel Gott. He was trying to find out how, what he listened to, play out in his life, because at the stage he is right now, he's trying to make a very important decision, which has to do with his job, and it most likely will take him away from home. Now, I think Dr. Rejo will still have to throw more light.
Yeah, so let's just give a backdrop to this question. Okay. One of the things that Dr. Rejo said last week was that it is not good for families if man and wife live separate.
Yes, right.
Yes, and
Thank you.
Yeah.
For remembering. Yeah.
And that struck a chord in quite a number of us, and I think that's the basis on which Sam asked this question, right? Yeah. That he's about to get, leave town, and he heard Dr. Reju say, even if you live apart from your wife, there must be a plan to join family, and it's difficult for him.
That really is the point. There are times in the journey of especially young ones, maybe starting out in life, and it's the most critical time when you really need to gel and you really need to bond. It's not that you turn on a job because you're going to be away from your family. But you have to look at it that this is an exception and not the rule. That even when you are away from your family, there is a process initiated immediately that we must be looking for a way to get back again. And I said that when I left home to go work somewhere else, we were in Ibadan and I had to go work in Lagos. So I was going home every weekend. Because there are some people that might be further than that and they can't even make it every weekend. So, but you need to understand that this is not the rule. It must not be this way. So you don't accept that as the way we are going to live our lives. Because the truth is, apart from the kids, your relationship will walk with a limp if you don't spend time together. You can't just see yourself 2 days, in a week, and then, and somebody might say that, but there are some people who even live in the same city and they don't see themselves. That doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. Because it's a relationship, and relationships evolve. They grow. And how do they grow? The more we spend time together. We get to know ourselves. So it's when that kind of a situation happens, another process must also kick in. What do we want to do with family? What do we want to do with ourselves? So if I'm going to be away from home, we also have to begin to look like we did then. Fortunately, where my wife was working was a big organization. They had branches all over the country. And we're already, initiating the process where she will have to get a transfer to come and join me. And again, eventually that didn't happen, but we had to put family first. She resigned. I'm not advocating that for everybody, but it might get to that point. She had to resign and then, and sometimes it doesn't have to be the man. It doesn't have to be the woman who will have to leave, right? It might be the man because it might be the woman that's leaving town. So it's really something that we have to come to understand. And when you now factor kids into it, children into it, it becomes more complex. It becomes more complex because, for the proper growth of a child, you need the input of both. You just need that balance. So we cannot, because people sacrifice these things today in our world on the altar of career. But you see, you pay for it in other ways, and it's painful. So I would like to really emphasize that. Don't just take the job. Don't just embark on that particular trip without, factoring into the interest of every stakeholder. Because once you marry, you are no longer your own. You're no longer your own. You can't just blast off and say you want to do this.
All right, Dr. Reju. I've heard you say before, I don't know whether it was on this program or another program, that marriages in Nigeria, they don't really get, they don't divorce.
Yeah.
But they implode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kindly clarify that. What does that mean?
It's very true. Because of our peculiar culture, we are very relational people. A lot of marriages there's really no more life there. But, we live in this system, in this culture where we really bother a lot about what people say. And because of that, we just manage a lot of things. For the sake of, so that they don't say things about us. We just keep it there. The husband is living his own life, the wife is living her own life, and nothing really happening there. So that's why I said, here, you don't see people say even if people divorce, it's something that's kept secret. So that's why I made that statement. But I'm happy that you brought that into this particular question, because that living apart actually most times it takes the life out of the relationship. It takes the life out of it. After a while, especially when they're young. It's because it's something you have to learn. Marriage is not, you don't marry by experience. You gain the experience in the marriage. You don't become so matured and so experienced and then you marry and then you're an expert. No, it's an on-the-job, kind of training. So and life has to be maintained. It has to be maintained. The ingredients are there that needs to be put inside it so that thing can keep living. So sometimes this kind of distance, it takes the vitality out of it. Initially, they might have this loneliness and everything. Then they now begin to get used to not being together. It becomes really dangerous. I'm not saying that people will just get into adultery or whatever. There might not even be adultery, but there's no more affection.
Just while we're still on this,
yeah.
Right? We're just talking about couples not getting divorced, but sort of not living together.
Yeah.
I just want to take it now a little further.
Yeah.
To the issue of divorce.
Okay.
I mean, the Catholic faith just finished what they called a family synod.
Okay.
Right? And we know the Catholics as people who are very conservative.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the agreements was that families who are divorced, right, usually they don't give them communion, but now they say, okay, on a case-by-case basis, they could.
Okay.
And I think that reflects the world now, that really couples split up, right? So the question is...
I really like that,
yeah.
Because now they are coming to reality. Before, we put every divorce in the same box, right? We just dump everybody that has gone through divorce in the same box. And that is wrong. It is presumptuous, because as far as I'm concerned, this is a very, very critical statement I'm about to make, and it takes a lot of sincerity to hear me. If you're listening to me and because of this statement, you find a way out of whatever challenge you are facing, then you are not listening to me. There are a lot of marriages that are just death traps. There are a lot of marriages that are contracted out of a high level of presumption. There are a lot of it that, bringing the biblical injunction into it, said that it is what God has joined together. There are a lot that churches join together. There are a lot that families join together. There are many there that it's just boy see girl, girl likes boy, and something just gets started. And then when the rubber hits the road, because every marriage, rightly contracted, wrongly contracted, the rubber will hit the road. What actually separate the wheat from the chaff, men from the boys, is the commitment, right? Is the commitment, is the willingness to go through the grind. Because if you are made of the right stuff, the harder you fall, the higher you bounce. That's the way it is. So, but to say that because especially religious organizations, especially Christians, they have really demonized everyone that is divorced. There are some that are hell on earth, that the only way for the two of them to begin to really live their life. I mean, don't let me give any specific instance here, because people might just latch onto that. But there are some really that they were never meant to be together. I'm saying some. So that's why I like that position, that they have to look at it now on a case-by-case basis. Hear the story. You see, I counsel people, and honestly, I'll tell you the truth. I have counseled some people to actually go their separate ways. As difficult, as controversial as that might be. It's not because they're just fighting. Every couple fight. Those who are married out there, they know. Every couple fight. Even those who might be 2-3 weeks old. They fight. Fight is a sign of health. I think I've said that on one of the episodes here. So it's not whether somebody is fighting, whether somebody is not fighting. It's what the fight leads to. Right? It's what the fight leads to. So there are some. So you cannot just put every divorcee in the same box. You have to get into the story. You have to be able to, appraise each one on their own merit. There are some, honestly, for life to get restored to this kind of people, they need to go their separate ways. But it's always very unfortunate, because divorce is never good, especially when you have other innocent parties involved, like children. Divorce is never good. That's why marriage is not something you enter into with presumption. You must be brought into a position where you have a bit of clarity about what you are bargaining.
Right. We'll just hear from our sponsors. We'll be back soon.
There are cooking oils and there are cooking oils, Of course. There are those that foam like soap when you put them on fire. And there are those that go to sleep after a few days. There are even those with funny odors that make neighbors wonder what's happening in your kitchen.
I beg, don't kill me.
But then again, there is Grand Pure Soya Oil, made from pure soya seed. Grand Pure Soya Oil is cholesterol-free, which makes it ideal for the heart and health conscious. It neither foams nor fumes, neither does it congeal even at low temperature. Grand Pure Soya Oil is also endorsed by the Nigerian Heart Foundation as heart-friendly oil.
Let me go and get my own Grand Pure Soya Oil, Joe. Oil that doesn't smell or sleep.
Grand Pure Soya Oil, a heart-friendly oil you've always known.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is Answers with Dr. Reju. We're here every 5 p.m. on Fridays. So wherever you are, just tune in. And if you're just joining us, give us a call, please. 081 44 56 9000. You can get to our Facebook page too on Answers with Dr. Reju, or send us a mail at answerswithdrreju.com. Before we went on the break, we were talking about a difficult issue, particularly given our environment, the issue of divorce. Matthew has a follow-up question to that.
Dr. Reju, I know of a prominent minister. His wasn't really, a case of, divorce. But he lost his wife and then he decided to go to remarry. Mm-hmm. Now, for divorcees that decide to remarry, what's your position on that?
Again, let's take it from where Obi took the question, because that really caught my interest because of how religious organizations, especially, maybe the Christian faith, and who else can really give us that kind of a perspective, like the Catholic Church, because of their hard stance, the conservative, kind of reputation that they have. And I said, I'm really excited about them. It's not that they're not really changing any doctrine, but they're just actually coming to reality, and reality is truth. The same way, we have, both in our culture, both in our religion and everything, the same way we have put, divorcees in that same box without looking at, individual cases, looking at it on its own merit. It's the same way we've actually addressed the issue of remarriage. Now, it's general belief. Once you've divorced, you cannot remarry. But my answer will go along the same line. The same way we look at the issue of whether people should actually be counseled to go their separate ways. The same way is how we can even counsel people, because really there are some divorces that is just due to the irresponsibility of both parties. Right. Not willing to accept responsibility, not willing to embrace challenge, not willing to just, seek the best of each other. Currently in the season where in 2 days' time I'm going to be 27 years in marriage. And I was thinking about so I'm not going to spill the beans here. I was thinking about what I'm going to tell my wife and all those kind of things. And, okay, by the time this program is being aired, it will have gone. So, but the point is, what I really want to tell her is, honestly, if I say that you are the best, it's an insult on you. That means I'm comparing you to someone else. Right? So, and that if I say that you are not the best, I know that you are not the best person in the world, but honestly, you are my choice. Right? And just exactly the way you are is the way I love you. That's the message I want to give her. So some divorces come when we are not willing to accept that reality. When we can't love the good side of our spouse, the bad side of our spouse, his or her setbacks, her upsets, her good parts. We only celebrate when she's on top of her game, and we feel depressed when she's really, having a bad day and not going. So some divorces come like that because we begin to pick and choose. That's not what I'm talking about. Because life is about embracing challenges. Our best come out when we embrace challenges. But I'm talking about a situation where they have irreconcilable differences. Because marriage is about, it's about agreement. Not on everything, but even areas where we disagree, it purifies, it refines. But I'm talking about irreconcilable differences.
No, sir, but before you go too far,
okay.
A lot of people, what they may call an irreconcilable difference, a lot of others may not look at it that way.
Exactly.
So you're talking about relativity there.
Yeah.
And I mean, that has always been an issue in the Christian faith.
You are very right. That's why I'm saying that anybody listening to me, please listen with a very sincere heart, because there is no human being, if you are doing something wrong, there's a very silent voice telling you, oh boy, oh girl, you are going on a wrong route. Yeah, that's not really the issue. But many times, that's why I said, if any relationship, marriage or whatever, if it's working, somebody is playing the fool. There's a statistic that every divorcee that marries, there is a high likelihood that they will divorce again. That's why I brought in the issue of irresponsibility, willingness to accept and to embrace challenges, confront problems and things like that. What you avoid, you meet it in front. Because you have not, positioned yourself to correct those things in your life, another relationship will just step on the carpet and the dust will come up. And when it comes, it becomes more difficult to contend with. What keeps a union going is that you have access to sound, intelligent, well-informed counsel. It's really, and here we don't have that kind of a structured counseling kind of thing. We don't have experts in those areas. Some is just based on anointing or some whatever, and and all those kind of some experience that is yours and all those kind of things. So, but somebody who can be so dispassionate, very objective, and he can really look at you in the face and give it to you, that this is so. Again, it's going to be something. Remarrying is something you have to do with serious counsel, doing a bit of review of what happened in the last relationship so that you don't repeat that.
All right. There's some people have a school of thought that nobody has any business with another person's marriage. Who I marry, what I marry, how many people I choose to marry.
What I marry.
Oh, yeah.
That in itself is self-denying. For instance, let's look at it. When you marry, you have to declare to your society your new status. That tells me straight away society is a stakeholder. Because for the woman, you had certificates or whatever in your maiden name. society has to know. And then you also need to now be able to declare society because of joint ownership of property. So that's why marriages are regulated by government, right? You can't marry and just say you don't want to register it with a registry or whatever. You have to. Even marrying within the family structure tells us that you can't just pick somebody and say you're going to, regardless of your culture, white, brown, whatever. The family plays a role, even if you don't go to government, because traditional marriage is properly recognized by, again, who? By the government, by the society. So you cannot, that in itself tells us that marriage is not something you contract. It's not a private affair. It's not a private business. It's not something you just do. I don't care, who. The person you want to marry belongs to. Even if the two of them agrees, there will come a time where you will feel, you will miss the validation or the approval of your society because there's something. Look at even all the argument happening in the world now about man marrying man, woman marrying woman. Why are they asking for approval from government? Why are they seeking legislation? It's because marriage is not a private affair. It's not. Why are they asking for churches, for mosques to recognize them? Why can't they just do it and everybody is happy? Right? So that means that marriage is not a private affair. So people have a say in not necessarily who you marry, but how you marry. Right? People have a say in it. It's not your private business.
Well, you see, you brought up an issue that has to do with the gays, and and I know, to our culture right now, a lot of people actually comment on these issues, especially gay issues, not from a well-informed perspective. They are very, very repulsive, to these individuals, and that has actually generated a lot of questions, especially since we're looking at issues that have to do with marriage.
Yeah.
And from what you've been saying over time, it says a lot that this thing really has to do with a man and a woman. And there's something they both bring by being, uniquely who they
different.
Are. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, how do we now put, because looking at, the standpoint of the gays, they have a lot of belief systems. A lot of them said that's how they were made. Some of them said they have, there've been some psychological whatever. There are a lot of things.
First of all, what I will say about this is we have to accept this now as a reality. It's happening in our world. And especially maybe in Nigeria, in Africa, we'll be living in denial if we say that it's not our business. Because the world has become a global village, and this whole idea, years ago I had to talk somewhere about this, and I wanted to actually validate my position about the authentic definition of marriage. And I checked the Webster's dictionary, the updated version. I've forgotten the year now. It has actually been updated in Webster's dictionary. The marriage is either between man and woman or people of the same sex. It's now gazetted, if I can use that word, in an authoritative lexicon like Webster's. So I said that to make this point that this is something that is now with us. It is not new that people, they've always had this affection for the same sex. It's as old as old. But in the West, they are really coming out now about this and that some people are made that way. I am not a scientist. If you look at it on the principle of life, right? Like and like can't produce life. I believe Christians have not really approached this issue the way it ought to be approached. The way, the outright condemnation, without looking again at what I said when we're talking about divorce, about unique cases. I'm not now saying that some unique cases can be right, But how about looking at these people as victims of circumstances? I have some people that I've had to counsel, struggling with this lifestyle, right? Not too far from where you guys live. Is right. That's why I said, first of all, that it is with us. Now, this guy is struggling with this kind of lifestyle. He is helpless. He doesn't like it, but he's helpless. You see, those are the kind of things that actually illuminated my mind, right? It's an issue that we have to deal with. And over the years, because of the prejudice, because of the judgmental spirit, people are getting so strong in this obviously psychological problem. It is. It is. And they have to find a way of living. And that's why, this whole movement is becoming so strong. And they are gaining a lot of ground. I remember a popular musician. His name is Ray Bowles. I'll mention his name because it's in public domain. It was published in the papers there. This is a guy that he was such a wonderful musician, for years. By the time he was able to come out that he was gay, he was already a grandfather. Now, what that tells me that in the community where this guy lives, both in his neighborhood and in his own church, he couldn't find anybody to trust to be able to strip, figuratively speaking, and probably get help. I remember we threw this question up in a gathering at the time, and the moment the question came, the whole gathering again, we are living in denial. A lot of people really want help, and they don't have any other place to go but those who can validate them in their error. And it's just a matter of time. I remember some few years ago here, there was a demonstration in Abuja where some people made a representation to the National Assembly. That's how it starts. And then I said something before that we live in a global world now. Our kids consume cartoons. Those sentiments are already being expressed in those cartoons. What I will say is that let us understand the world. We have not shown love to these people enough for them to really say what is really in their minds. Because I believe, because it's just human, it's just nature. It's nature, it's as simple as that. Don't let us bring any sort of grammar into it. It's nature. This person that I said I'm trying to help out, he doesn't have a father figure growing up. And let me tell you, there is nobody in his family that knows. Nobody. He could not tell anyone. But maybe he had me express some opinions in some certain quarters, and he was able to come up to me that this is where I am. Because it's a learned behavior, and it has to be unlearned. Parents need to take responsibility. If you don't, and I'm not trying to put fear in anybody's mind, if you don't want to lose your children, get more involved in what they like. You can't be an elementary school teacher and you don't know Ben 10, you don't know Scooby-Doo, you don't know, Mickey Mouse, you don't know Mimi Mouse. You need to get into their world. It's in that world you can explain this is what this is, this is what this is.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Please keep it a date with us every 5 p.m. on Fridays. Thanks for giving us your time. Have a nice week.
Give us a call or chat us on WhatsApp on 081-4456-9000. Check out our website and interact with us on www.answerswithdrreju.com. Like our Facebook page, Answers with Dr. Reju, or send us an email at answerswithdrreju@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are @DrRejuAnswers. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Answers with Dr. Reju, where you can get all our episodes. Join us again on Answers with Dr. Reju, where critical life issues are clarified.